My name's Randy Richmond. I'm a photographer. The title of this show is While You Weren't Looking. I also teach photography at St. Ambrose University. So the exhibit consists of still life photographs as well as landscape photographs. And I think the reason that is because it was a still life painting that I saw over 20 years ago that resembled a landscape to me that got me interested in still life. And as time has gone on, my landscapes have started to look more like still lifes, and my still lifes have taken a few steps forward to resemble landscape photographs. How I achieve that with still lifes is that I actually use a background that I created and printed on canvas. And it's a combination of several of my landscape photographs smooshed together and manipulated to be vague. And the reason I decided to do that is to take it that next level of questioning whether it's inside, whether it's outside, whether it's a landscape. It kind of resembles old-time photo studios where a background is always painted and very obviously a painted landscape. So I was kind of trying to blur the line between those two. I collect weird stuff. I collect weird, broken, dead, decaying things. And they start gathering at different points in my workspace. And as they gather, as they change, as I move things around, as I use one element and stack it on another element, more still lifes come out of those combinations of sort of accidental storage. So that's my reason also for having a very messy workspace, is because if I can't see the stuff, then it's going to end. I have to be able to see the stuff, and I have to be able to see where it all lands. To get to where I end up with a finished image, I will start off with sometimes 100 to 200, but that seems exaggerated, and the reason that it ends up that much is because I play a lot with focus, and I play a lot with light and basic sort of construction of the layout. So things move little small increments, and I use focus as a way to draw attention to a specific area within the scene. The inspiration for the lighting, it's equal parts Grant Wood, because I have always viewed his paintings as being very theatrical and drama oriented, because his lighting is always coming from above. And then the Norwegian painter Oud Nerdrum, who creates sort of a mythology of things, and his lighting is also similarly to Grant Wood, very much from above, just slightly forward, but from above. So and then I use a wireless studio strobe system where I can sync shutter speed at any point I want to, up to a 4,000th of a second, so that way I can control the contrast of the scene. When you look at the still lifes and you see a matte pen holding something in place, it's because I didn't want to use the technology to think that just air is holding it there. There's always, if there's a piece of, sometimes there'll be a piece of blue tape that's holding something in place. I'll leave the blue tape in, not because it's just because I think it should be there. I'm probably overcompensating because it could be something that could easily be removed electronically, and I just want to leave it there. The negative space that's included, you'll notice that it will communicate a lot with the subject matter. So the sky, which is the only part of that background that I manipulate electronically, is I want to sort of bring color out of the objects and have it land in the sky so they play off of each other. So yeah, the negative space in these still lifes is very important. The style of printing, the way I print, starts with the way I photograph. And what's very important to me is to make sure that I have full range of detail from the brightest brights to the darkest darks. So that's the first thing that will make it seem unusual, because I don't think a lot of people do that. That's from the old days of film photography. I learned that very important aspect. Additionally, I use, this is a Korean-made kozo paper. So it's a paper that's made from the inner bark of mulberry. And because of the paper is thin, but the fibers are very dense, so they don't spread. So you get a great degree of sharpness and also of shadow detail. And that lends itself to, I think that the somewhat fragileness of the compositions plays well with that paper structure. When you look in the negative spaces, the sky mostly, you'll see where it's almost like a very fine layer of silk threads that go across the surface of the paper. So that adds a lot to it. The surface of the paper, with electronic photography, people have gotten a little bit lazy, and they take what they spend hours and hours on, and they'll send it off to a strip mall in Las Vegas, and some young teenager runs it through a machine, and it all comes out on luster finish paper. It's all luster, and to me that's kind of boring, and it also kind of gets in the way of the character of what somebody has taken so long to record. In the old chemical darkroom days, the type of paper that was used to make a print was often just as important as what a photographer pointed their camera at. And so I would like to see more importance put on the final structure, the final print of the process in photography. In the landscapes, they're similar to the still lifes in that they use negative space in a similar way. There's always like a gateway into something else, a motion, an invitation into a space that you may not normally travel in. I guess it's sort of a liminal approach to landscape photography, where it's kind of an invitation to explore something, which I think is lacking these days, that people's curiosity about the land around them, and if they were more curious about it, they would probably take a little bit better care of it. A contrast between the landscapes and the still lifes. The still lifes will have one or two main players on the stage, if you look at it like a theater production. So there's main actors and there's supporting actors. And the main actors are there to help direct you into the scene so that you come out having experienced it. And the landscape photographs, the invitation, the space that's inviting you into the scene, then the experience of traveling through the scene is what gives you the emotional response. I think that in photography today, a lot of people like to make things perfect, and there's that need to make things perfect a lot of times, I think, because of the chaos that surrounds us. But I think that trying to make photography perfect ultimately creates very boring photography. So I like to leave little bits and pieces in, little dust specks, little things left over from the previous, dirt on the glass, the teapot that was broken, and then I found another use for the teapot, so I continued to use it. And the landscape, a landscape is never meticulous and clean, and it shouldn't be. It should look like life. Just like in the still lifes, things look like life, and things get injured, and things get damaged, and then they get combined with things that have a different story, a different background, and then that creates more beauty as opposed to tragedy. You can leave that in. I like to think that the still lifes don't necessarily give the viewer a peek into my personality, but what I see is the personality of the world around me. And just the ability to accept differences and accept anomalies and accept things that occur that tend to damage fellow human beings.